To understand the state of global politics today, a very important question needs to be asked. Why is it that there are so many Muslim organizations across the world which have as their stated goal the destruction of the United States, Britain, and other Western countries? And why has their strength grown? Now, someone like Samuel Huntington would say, this is proof of the clash of civilizations. He'd say, because Muslims have failed to modernize fast enough, that they don't have democratic institutions within their countries, therefore it is their rage which is being directed outwards. Now that's very convenient, but after all, it takes two hands to clap. And what people like Huntington miss out, or rather prefer to miss out, is the role of the United States, Britain, and other Western countries in creating the kind of atmosphere in which religious extremism has thrived. To make my point, let's look at the map of the world in the early part of the 20th century, let's say before 1950. What one sees is that nowhere is there a Muslim fundamentalist leader. There is no fundamentalist organization like Al-Qaeda, and the world looks totally different. So, if you look at Turkey, it was headed by Kemal Atatürk, the man who had abolished the caliphate and who Orthodox Muslims hate. In Algeria, there was Ahmed bin Bella. He was a man who fought off the French, a nationalist and a socialist. In Iran, there was Muhammad Mossadegh, again a nationalist and a socialist. In Indonesia, there was a communist, Ahmad Sukarno. He was somebody who had mass followings. In Egypt, there was Jamal Abdel Nasser, who had united the Arabs under the overarching umbrella of Pan-Arabism, again a socialist. The Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, was a very secular organization, having within its ranks not just Muslims, but also Christians and even a few Jews. One by one, all of these fell. The PLO was defeated in Lebanon in 1982 by the Israelis, helped by the Americans. In 1953, a coup had occurred in Iran, engineered by the CIA. Mohammad Mossadegh was out for having nationalized Iranian oil, and in his place was put an American-friendly dictator, Reza Shah Pahlavi. In Egypt, once Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, he was attacked by the British, the French, and the Israelis all acting together. Perhaps the bloodiest change happened in Indonesia, where Ahmad Sukarno was ousted in a CIA coup, and in his place came Suharto, chosen by the Americans for being pliable. Sukarno's sin had been that he had joined the non-aligned movement, and he had not taken the sides of the Americans in the Cold War. One by one, all of these organizations and governments collapsed. But the biggest gift to religious extremism came from the United States in 1979. This was the year that the Soviet Union had invaded Afghanistan, and this was the time when the US, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia all joined together to create the first global jihad of history. The most hardened of fighters were solicited from across the world. They came, they were trained, and they were sent to Afghanistan to fight what was called the godless evil empire. This is something that the American Senator Charlie Wilson happily acknowledges. In fact, his gift of the Stingers was the turning point because it enabled the Soviet aircraft to be shot down with very little casualties on part of the Mujahideen. In Iran, as we know, Mossadegh was followed by Reza Shah Pahlavi, who then was overthrown, and in came the Islamic Revolution. Well, it's a fact now that the strength of Islamic militant organizations is growing across the world, and that their goals have correspondingly changed with time. No longer is it a matter of simply fighting off the Americans and the British. Now there is a new goal, and that is of transforming the world and making it according to their own desires. These organizations do not worry about jobs, building hospitals, roads, schools, so forth. They don't want to fight for any particular country, nor do they think that class struggle is proper and Islamic. Instead, each one of these organizations believes that it alone knows the true way. And so what is important to these organizations are questions like, how often does someone pray? More importantly, how does he pray? With hands down or hands crossed? About the length of the beard, or how much of a woman's face should be covered? Or does this person go and pray at a shrine? The consequence of this has been literally a bloodbath. What we have seen is hundreds of thousands of Muslims killed in recent times, and their killers were also Muslims. So if on the one hand we talk about the clash of religions, in fact the actual killing that occurs within one religion is far more important and far more devastating. Today's world is different from the world that existed hundreds of years ago. Because of the forces of science and technology, modernization is occurring everywhere. We have cities where different peoples come and live together. They're different in terms of culture, religion, religious sect, and even race. So the challenge before all of us is to learn to live with each other. That alone can make a peaceful world.